Hello, my friends. This is Big Daddy Cass back again with a recital done my way. I call this Flesh-Eating Enemy. Now, before I tell you this story, I'd like to paint you a picture that will set the foundation of what took place in my home on September 11, 2008. Oddly enough, it was the 7th anniversary of the attack of the Islamic extremists on the World Trade Center in New York City. Around midnight on the 10th, I had finished an article paying tribute to the victims of this tragedy. That's why the date's so vivid in my mind. It was 3 o'clock in the morning on the 11th when the story I'm about to tell you took place. Now for the picture I want you to see and acknowledge. There are 5 dogs that live in my small 2-bedroom apartment where normally we are happy and content. However, in the past 6 months, 2 of my dogs have fallen prey to an extreme health problem. The oldest one, Bear, has lost the use of his extremities, and the smallest one, Charlie, has gone blind due to a diabetic disorder. The other 3 dogs are fine, but it's hard for them to understand why I have to spend so much time taking care of the 2 dogs that need special treatment to survive. Bear is a 14-year-old, 200-pound golden retriever that exists only for constant love and attention. Charlie needs some help, but he's becoming accustomed to his blindness and gets around quite well. Now that I've laid the foundation, it's time to get on with my story. On the morning of September the 10th, Bear had bad diarrhea and discharged watery feces all over him and all over my living room. Pardon the expression, but you'll have to use your imagination to see how much shit hit the fan. Visualize this: a 200-pound water pump gone wild. Well, between trips to the bathroom to throw up, it took me 3 hours to clean up the room, and I hadn't even started on Bear. I had to employ the help of my next-door tenant to help me carry Bear outside where I could shampoo him and hose him down. I dried him off the best that I could with the towels that I had. Then I decided to leave him out in the sun and to dry completely. It was close to 90 degrees, so I wasn't worried about him catching cold because he was really enjoying the attention. Seeing that I used all my towels, I had to clean up the mess and dry Bear. I had 2 large loads to wash while Bear was drying in the sun. When Bear was dry, my tenant helped me carry him in, and we put him on an 8x10 rubber mat with a couple wool blankets to make him comfy and cozy. He went right to sleep and slept the rest of the day. He was as comfortable and as clean as he could be. Normally, I spend most of the night writing poems and short stories, but I was exhausted, so I went to bed early, around 10. The rest of my 4-legged family all sleep with me except for Charlie, and Charlie cuddles up next to Bear. I fell into a deep sleep, and it would have taken no less than a thunderstorm or a locomotive roaring through the house to wake me. Well, it happened at 3 o'clock in the morning. All the dogs were barking, Bear was whimpering and crying, and my first thought was somebody has broken into my home. I jumped out of bed and ran into the living room and quickly turned on the lights. Oh my God, what I saw was horrific, unbelievable and frightening. Never in all my mind's eye could I imagine something so gruesome, sickening, shocking, and horrendous. It was like I was witnessing a science fiction movie, and little creatures invading the earth. It was all way beyond the figment of my imagination. There the intruders were, completely covering Charlie and Bear and the floor around them. Millions of little white worms were feasting on their bodies. Oh my God, this was a nightmare. It couldn't be happening. Holy Mother of God, it was. Oh God, help me, what am I going to do? I heard myself muttering this over and over again. There was no time to wonder where they had come from. I had to get rid of them fast before they devoured my family. They had declared war and won the first battle, but I'll be damned if I was going to let them win the war. I threw myself down in the middle of the swarming little monsters and started brushing them away. For every one I brushed away, 10 or 20 more would take their place. The little bastards were winning. Somehow I had to find a way to turn the tables. I ran into the pantry, opened the chemical closet, and grabbed a can of ant and roach killer. I knew darn well it was toxic and could poison my animals, but I had no choice. They were being eaten alive. This battle started shortly after 3 o'clock, and it was now 4, and I still hadn't made any progress. I had to get something that would work. By now these little monsters were all over the house, and rapidly increasing. I had to retreat and find new weapons that would work. I retreated as fast as I could to my storage shed out in my backyard. I grabbed a large shop vacuum and a new Dyson vacuum that was still in the box. I grabbed a can of insect repellent, a can of weed killer, and a large can of Raid bug spray. When I returned to the front, I noticed that Charlie had freed himself and had shaken off most of those nasty white creatures. He was cowering in the kitchen corner where only a few hundred of those little monsters had gathered. I also noticed that many of the little warriors lie dead or were dying where they had been sprayed around Bear. However, they were multiplying so fast that now there was twice as many as before. I grabbed Charlie and took him into the bathroom shower, vacuumed most of the bugs off him, and closed the shower so no bugs could get in. I left him there and returned to the front. With a can of weed killer in one hand and Raid in the other hand, I started spraying those crawly white invaders as fast as I could, all the time trying to keep the spray away from Bear's face, and especially his nose. I don't know whether it was the weed killer or the Raid that was working, but the little white monsters were dropping dead by the thousands, and I actually mean thousands. Given time for a second breath, I started vacuuming up the dead bodies as well as the live ones. Almost 6 o'clock, and now I could see victory. I was winning. Oh my God, I was winning this war. My shop vacuum holds about 20 pounds, and each time I'd fill it and empty it in the irrigation ditch that runs across my backyard. I lost track of the number of times I emptied it, but I know I must have dumped it at least 100 times. You can bet your life I'm not going to have a memorial service for those little bastards. By 7 o'clock I had won the war, but the damage was done. Poor Bear had wounds covering his whole body. Deep ones, 2 inches wide. He had sores on his face, ears, and neck, but the worst ones are down the middle of his back where his hair crops. He also had bad sores on his anus and penis, making it real painful for him to use the bathroom. Charlie, for some reason, was left with only one irritated wound, right on the tip of his poor little penis. It has been several days since this tragic event, and neither dog will eat solid food. It took a lot of patience to get them to drink broths. It is possible that they have toxic poisoning from the insect sprays. I talked to the vet, and he says the toxic poison will wear off and it just takes time. The sores where the bugs had eaten the flesh needed to be watched for infection and treated with a good antiseptic to avoid any further problems. I asked him what kind of flesh-eating bug did this horrible thing, and he said he thought they were lice. I said they didn't look like lice, they looked more like maggots to me. He said maggots don't usually eat live flesh. I still think they were maggots. Maybe they were a new breed of maggots. Warrior maggots. Thanks for listening to my story. Have a good night. This is Big Daddy Cass signing off.